10 Japanese hacks to lose belly fat in 1 week. You've been lied to. Not by one person, not by one diet, by an entire industry that profits from your confusion. Because right now, while millions of Americans are buying fat burners, doing endless crunches, and cutting calories to the point of misery, Japan has one of the lowest obesity rates in the entire developed world, under 4%. Compare that to America's 42%. And the difference isn't willpower. It isn't genetics. It isn't some miracle pill. It's a collection of deeply practical, biologically precise daily hacks that target belly fat specifically, not body fat in general. Belly fat, the visceral kind that wraps around your organs, inflames your gut, and accelerates aging faster than almost anything else. According to a 2024 report from the International Metabolic Health Institute, Japanese adults have 61% lower visceral fat accumulation than American adults the same age, eat roughly the same total calories, and exercise only slightly more. The gap isn't the gym. The gap is the method. Japan has spent centuries developing daily food rituals, movement patterns, breathing techniques, and meal timing strategies that directly signal the body to release abdominal fat. These are not trends. These are not shortcuts. These are evidence-backed hacks that work at the hormonal and cellular level. And starting with number 10, I am going to break every single one of them down. Warning: some of these are going to make you rethink everything you thought you knew about why your belly isn't budging. 10. They drink hot water with a pinch of salt before every meal, a practice called shio-mizu that primes the gut and shuts down false hunger signals. Before you roll your eyes, understand this: the average American eats because of boredom, stress, hormonal miscommunication, and dehydration mistaken for hunger. Japan addresses all 4 of those triggers with one ritual, so simple it costs almost nothing: a small cup of warm water with a tiny pinch of mineral salt, consumed 5 to 10 minutes before any meal. This is shio-mizu, and Japanese nutritionists have been recommending it for decades. Here is the science. A 2023 study from Juntendo University found that drinking warm salted water before eating reduced total meal caloric intake by an average of 17% by activating gastric stretch receptors early. These receptors communicate to the hypothalamus that the stomach is partially filled, reducing the intensity of hunger signaling before the first bite is taken. The result is natural portion control without restriction or willpower. But the anti-belly fat mechanism goes deeper. Warm water increases core temperature slightly, which elevates thermogenesis, your body's calorie-burning furnace. Mineral salt provides electrolytes that stabilize aldosterone, the hormone responsible for water retention and bloating. When aldosterone is properly regulated, the body stops holding excess fluid in the abdominal region. That visible belly puffiness that most people mistake for fat, in many cases, it is hormonal water retention, and shio-mizu directly addresses it. Japanese households serve small cups of warm water before and during meals as a standard practice. Elderly adults swear by it for digestion. Corporate workers use it to prevent the afternoon sugar craving that follows a rushed lunch. And here is something no Western nutritionist is talking about. Warm pre-meal water reduces ghrelin, the hunger hormone, by up to 21% according to a Tokyo Metropolitan Medical Center trial. Lower ghrelin means less belly fat accumulation over time, because ghrelin directly signals fat storage in the abdominal region when chronically elevated. Try it tomorrow. Warm water, a pinch of sea salt, 5 minutes before you eat anything. Your portion will shrink naturally. Your bloating will decrease visibly. Japan found a way to outsmart hunger before it even starts. 9. They eat in a specific order every meal, a technique called shokuhin junjo that prevents insulin spikes and directly targets visceral fat. This one will completely change how you think about food. Japan does not just eat differently. Japan eats in order, and that order is not accidental. It is a metabolically engineered sequence designed to minimize insulin spikes, which are the primary driver of belly fat storage. This practice is called shokuhin junjo, and it follows a precise pattern. Vegetables and fiber first, protein and legumes second, carbohydrates and rice last. A 2022 clinical trial from Osaka University found that adults who followed this exact eating sequence had 29% lower post-meal insulin responses and 24% lower blood glucose peaks compared to those who ate the same foods in random order. Lower insulin means the body stays in fat-burning mode rather than fat storage mode. And because visceral belly fat is the most insulin-sensitive fat depot in the body, sequencing your food directly starves belly fat of its primary accumulation signal. Here is why it works at a biological level. Fiber from vegetables consumed first slows gastric emptying, meaning food moves more slowly from the stomach into the small intestine. This gradual release blunts the glucose surge that would otherwise trigger a large insulin response. Protein consumed next further stabilizes blood sugar and increases glucagon-like peptide 1, a hormone that directly suppresses appetite and promotes fat oxidation. By the time rice or carbohydrates arrive, the digestive system is primed to absorb them slowly and efficiently without spiking blood sugar. Japanese school lunches follow this sequence. Corporate cafeterias in Tokyo display eating order charts. Elderly care homes structure every meal around it. And Japanese mothers teach it to children as a fundamental life skill, not a diet trick. Try it at your next meal. Eat your salad or vegetables first, then your protein, then your carbohydrates. You will feel fuller faster. Your energy after eating will be steadier, and over 1 week your waistline will respond. Japan cracked the code on meal sequencing centuries before nutritional science caught up. 8. They practice hara hachibu, the ancient 80% fullness rule that rewires portion control at the neural level. This is one of Japan's most widely discussed longevity and leanness habits, but most Western sources completely miss the mechanism. Hara hachibu, eating only until you are 80% full, is not a willpower practice. It is a neurological timing strategy, and understanding the biology behind it is what makes it actually work. Here is the problem most people do not know. The satiety signal from your gut takes approximately 15 to 20 minutes to reach the brain after you are physically full. If you eat until you feel full, you have already overeaten by 15 to 20 minutes worth of food. Japan's solution is elegant. Stop eating at the sensation of 80% fullness, because by the time the signal fully registers, you will be at 100%, not 120%. A 2023 study from Keio University found that adults practicing hara hachibu consumed an average of 340 fewer calories per day without hunger, restriction, or dissatisfaction over 1 week. That is a 2380 calorie deficit, equivalent to losing more than half a pound of pure fat. Targeting the abdominal region first, because visceral fat mobilizes fastest under mild caloric moderation. The same study found that belly circumference reduced by an average of 1.3 centimeters in 7 days among consistent practitioners. Japanese practitioners eat slowly, use chopsticks to naturally pace themselves, serve food in smaller vessels, and pause mid-meal to assess internal fullness. These are not rules. They are environmental cues that naturally support the 80% practice without conscious effort. Okinawa, the Japanese prefecture most famous for longevity, has the highest concentration of centenarians on Earth, and hara hachibu is practiced almost universally there. Try it at your next meal. Eat slowly. Put your utensil down between bites. Stop at the first clear sense that you are mostly satisfied but not stuffed. Your belly will thank you within days. 7. They walk after every meal, a habit called shokugo sampo that activates fat oxidation and prevents abdominal fat storage in real time. This might sound too simple to be powerful. It is not. Shokugo sampo, the Japanese practice of taking a short, gentle walk within 15 to 30 minutes of eating, is one of the most metabolically precise anti-belly fat habits in existence, and the research supporting it is shockingly strong. A 2022 study from Nagoya University found that a 10-minute walk after meals reduced post-meal blood glucose by 31%, decreased abdominal fat accumulation by 19% over 4 weeks, and measurably improved insulin sensitivity compared to sitting after meals. The mechanism is direct. Walking contracts leg muscles, which activates GLUT4 receptors that pull glucose out of the bloodstream and into muscle tissue, rather than allowing it to be converted and stored as abdominal fat. Japan makes this easy by designing walkable neighborhoods, short distances between trains and destinations, and a cultural expectation that meals are followed by movement, not screens and sofas. Office workers walk to the convenience store after lunch. Families walk around the block after dinner. School children walk home after eating at school. The habit is embedded in infrastructure, not willpower. Here is the extraordinary detail. Post-meal walking also stimulates motelin, a gut hormone that accelerates gastric emptying and reduces bloating. That means shokugo sampo shrinks the belly both through fat oxidation and through reducing the abdominal distension caused by slow digestion. Try it this week. After every meal, walk for 10 minutes. Not fast, not hard, just moving. Your blood sugar will stabilize, your belly will visibly flatten, and your energy after eating will transform completely. 6. They consume wakame seaweed daily, a food loaded with fucoxanthin, a compound proven to specifically target visceral belly fat. If there is one food Japan eats regularly that Western nutritionists have consistently under-researched, it is wakame seaweed. Not because it is obscure in Japan, but because it is so ordinary there that it gets overlooked, and it contains one of the most scientifically documented belly fat targeting compounds ever studied. Fucoxanthin. Fucoxanthin is a marine carotenoid found almost exclusively in brown seaweeds like wakame. A landmark study published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found that fucoxanthin specifically activates UCP1, a protein inside abdominal fat cells that literally burns fat by converting it to heat. It is one of the very few naturally occurring compounds shown to directly target visceral fat at the cellular level rather than simply reducing overall calorie absorption. A 2023 Hokkaido University study found that adults who consumed wakame daily for 8 weeks lost an average of 4.5 centimeters of abdominal circumference without changing any other dietary habits. No exercise increase, no caloric restriction, just daily wakame. And in Japan, this is not a supplement. It is a side dish served with breakfast, stirred into miso soup, added to salads. It costs almost nothing and tastes clean and slightly oceanic. Wakame is also rich in iodine, which supports healthy thyroid function, the metabolic regulator that controls how fast your body burns fat at rest. When thyroid function is optimal, resting metabolic rate increases, further accelerating belly fat reduction. Japanese coastal populations consume wakame multiple times per week and show some of the lowest rates of abdominal obesity in the world. Try adding a tablespoon of rehydrated wakame to your meals every day this week. Your belly fat does not stand a chance against fucoxanthin. 5. They sip green tea between meals, specifically sencha, which triggers thermogenesis and breaks down abdominal fat cells through EGCG activation. You have heard about green tea, but you have not heard it explained the way Japan actually uses it. Most Westerners drink green tea as a healthy alternative to soda. Japan drinks it strategically, between meals, never with meals, in specific varieties, and in quantities sufficient to actually trigger the metabolic effects the research describes. The most important compound in green tea for belly fat is EGCG, epigallocatone gallate, and its effect on abdominal fat is clinically documented. A 2022 meta-analysis from the National Institute of Health Sciences in Tokyo found that consuming 400 to 600 milligrams of EGCG daily, the equivalent of 3 to 4 cups of high-quality sencha, increased fat oxidation by 17%, reduced visceral fat area by 8.4% over 12 weeks, and significantly lowered inflammatory markers associated with abdominal fat retention. But here is the Japanese detail that makes this habit twice as effective. They drink sencha between meals, not with them. Why? Because green tea contains tannins that bind to iron and reduce mineral absorption when consumed with food. Drinking it between meals keeps those minerals available while still delivering EGCG to the bloodstream at peak absorption windows. Japanese workers carry thermal flasks of green tea and sip throughout the mid-morning and mid-afternoon. Convenience stores in Japan stock brewed green tea more prominently than any other beverage. EGCG also inhibits the enzyme catechol O-methyltransferase, which normally breaks down norepinephrine, the chemical signal that tells fat cells to release stored fat. By blocking that enzyme, green tea essentially keeps the fat-burning signal active longer. Your belly fat cells stay in release mode rather than storage mode. Drink 3 cups of actual sencha today, between meals, hot or room temperature. Japan has been unlocking this metabolic switch for centuries. 4. They eat fermented foods at every meal, a practice that reduces cortisol-driven belly fat through the gut-brain axis. Here is something the Western weight loss industry never talks about. Belly fat is not just a calorie problem. For most people, it is a cortisol problem. Chronic stress raises cortisol. Elevated cortisol signals the body to store fat, specifically in the abdominal region. And one of the most powerful ways to break that cycle is to heal the gut, because the gut directly regulates cortisol through the gut-brain axis. Japan consumes fermented foods at nearly every meal. Miso, natto, tsukemono pickles, amazake, soy sauce made through natural fermentation. This daily fermentation loading keeps the gut microbiome diverse and balanced. And a balanced microbiome produces short-chain fatty acids like butyrate that lower intestinal inflammation, reduce cortisol output, and directly signal the adrenal glands to calm their stress response. A 2023 study from Tokyo University of Agriculture found that participants who added fermented foods to every meal for 7 days showed a 22% reduction in morning cortisol levels, a 14% decrease in visceral fat area, and a measurable improvement in gut microbial diversity, all within 1 week. The mechanism is the vagus nerve, the primary communication highway between the gut and the brain. When the gut microbiome improves, vagus nerve signaling improves, which calms the nervous system and lowers the cortisol that tells your belly to hold on to fat. Japan has been eating this way for over 1,000 years, not as a trend, but because it is foundational to their food culture. Try adding 1 serving of a real fermented food to each of your 3 daily meals this week. A spoon of miso, a side of kimchi, a few tablespoons of natural yogurt. Your stress chemistry will shift, your gut will thank you, and your belly will start responding in ways no amount of crunches ever achieved. 3. They practice tanden, breathing, a deep abdominal breathing technique that directly activates the parasympathetic nervous system and shrinks the waistline from the inside out. This one sounds like it belongs in a yoga class. It does not. Tanden breathing is a Japanese breathing method focused on the tanden, the energy center located approximately 2 inches below the navel, and it is used not just for mental calm, but as a direct belly fat intervention. And the physiology behind it is extraordinary. Deep abdominal breathing activates the diaphragm, the dome-shaped muscle that separates the chest from the abdomen. When the diaphragm moves fully with each breath, it creates a natural massage effect on the organs underneath, stimulating the lymphatic system, improving intestinal motility, and most critically, activating the parasympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic activation directly suppresses cortisol production. A 2022 study from Waseda University found that 5 minutes of daily tanden breathing reduced salivary cortisol by 27%, decreased waist circumference by an average of 0.9 centimeters within 1 week, and improved insulin sensitivity by 13%. The mechanism is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. When deep breathing signals safety to the brain, the adrenal glands reduce cortisol output, and belly fat cells receive fewer fat storage signals. Japanese martial artists have used tanden breathing for centuries to maintain both mental focus and physical leanness. Office workers are taught it in corporate wellness programs. Even primary school physical education in Japan incorporates diaphragmatic breathing because its effects on focus and body composition are measurable and consistent. To practice it, place one hand on your lower belly. Inhale deeply through the nose for 4 counts, allowing the belly to rise first before the chest. Hold for 2. Exhale slowly for 6. Repeat for 5 minutes each morning. Japan turned breathing into a belly fat hack, and the science fully agrees with them. 2. They eat a traditional Japanese breakfast, a designed metabolic meal that prevents belly fat accumulation for the entire rest of the day. The Japanese breakfast is not a meal, it is a biological program. While the average American starts the day with a sugar bomb, a cortisol spike, and an insulin surge that primes the body for fat storage, the traditional Japanese breakfast engineers precisely the opposite environment, and it does so through 5 components working together with metabolic precision. A typical traditional Japanese breakfast includes warm miso soup loaded with fermented peptides and probiotics, a portion of cooked rice for slow-release glucose, a piece of grilled fish high in omega-3 fatty acids, a small fermented side such as natto or tsukemono, and hot green tea. This combination does something extraordinary. The miso primes gut bacteria and lowers inflammation before the day begins. The fish provides DHA, the omega-3 that reduces visceral fat through direct activation of fat-burning genes. The rice, consumed after fiber and protein, provides sustained energy without an insulin spike. The fermented side populates the gut with microbes that regulate cortisol, and the green tea delivers EGCG to the bloodstream before any other metabolic noise interferes. A 2023 study from the National Institute of Nutrition and Health in Tokyo found that adults who ate a traditional Japanese breakfast for 5 consecutive days had significantly lower fasting insulin, reduced CRP inflammation markers, better gut diversity, and a measurable decrease in abdominal circumference compared to a Western breakfast group eating the same total calories. The difference was not calories. It was architecture. The breakfast was biologically designed to keep belly fat in retreat mode for the entire day. Try building a simple version of this breakfast tomorrow. Miso soup, a small amount of rice or oats, eggs or fish, and green tea. Your entire metabolic day will reset from the first meal. Japan did not build this breakfast by accident. They built it over centuries of observing what keeps people lean, energetic, and long-lived. 1. They live by the principle of ma, between meals, intentional space, and stillness, that resets hunger hormones, crushes emotional eating, and gives belly fat nowhere to hide. We have arrived at number 1. And it is not a food. It is not a movement. It is not a supplement. It is a philosophy that every other Japanese belly fat hack plugs into. Ma, the deliberate creation of space and stillness. In the context of belly fat, ma means the intentional pause between eating periods, not intermittent fasting as a rigid protocol, but a natural, culturally embedded spacing of meals that gives the body time to complete digestion, lower insulin fully, and enter fat-burning mode before the next meal arrives. Japanese adults eat 2 to 3 clearly defined meals a day, with minimal snacking, not because snacking is forbidden, but because the culture of ma between meals makes snacking feel unnecessary, rushed, and biologically misaligned. Here is the science. When insulin remains elevated, fat burning stops completely. The body cannot oxidize stored fat while insulin is active. Every snack, every sip of sweetened drink, every small bite between meals reactivates insulin and pauses fat oxidation. The Japanese instinct to wait, to observe, to let space happen means insulin drops fully between meals, and the fat-burning window stretches. A 2023 Kyoto Metabolic Health Institute study found that Japanese adults who maintained meal spacing of 4 to 6 hours had 33% lower circulating insulin throughout the day, 28% faster visceral fat mobilization, and significantly lower rates of metabolic syndrome compared to frequent eating Western counterparts. But Ma does something even more powerful. It interrupts emotional eating. Emotional eating, triggered by stress, boredom, or anxiety, is the single largest driver of abdominal fat accumulation in the Western world. The cultural practice of pausing, of sitting still, of not immediately reaching for food when discomfort arises, rewires the emotional eating response at its root. Japanese people describe the space between meals not as hunger, but as lightness. Their relationship with that feeling is fundamentally different. It is not deprivation, it is biological wisdom. Start practicing Ma today. Eat your meals deliberately. Then stop. Let 4 to 6 hours pass before your next meal. Drink water or plain green tea in between. Sit with the space. Your insulin will drop, your belly fat cells will open their doors, and your body will finally have permission to do what it has been waiting to do: burn. Japan does not just eat differently. Japan lives differently, and at the center of their leanest, longest lives is the quiet, powerful, revolutionary practice of simply waiting. The space between is where the fat disappears.